This photograph was taken in 1889 at Whitmore Hospital in Philadelphia. The girl you're seeing was named Elizabeth Ashford, only 8 years old. Look at the empty space where her face should be. The camera captured her body in perfect detail. Every fold of her dress, every button, her hands on the table. But where her face should appear, there is only a void. Not a blur, not a shadow. An absolute absence of features, as if her face had been erased before the photograph was even taken. Elizabeth Ashford presented one of the most disturbing medical mysteries of the 19th century, a case that doctors struggled to explain and preferred to forget. What happened to Elizabeth cannot be explained by technical failure or chemical defects. But the story you're going to hear today goes far beyond just a mysterious photograph. It's about a girl who seemed to exist in two realities simultaneously, who reported seeing a place that appeared only in reflections, experiencing something that modern psychology still struggles to understand. To understand Elizabeth Ashford's case, we must return to 1889, to Philadelphia, still recovering from industrial chaos. Immigrants flooded the streets. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Whitmore Hospital had been built just 4 years earlier, a modern facility representing the newest scientific progress. Its corridors were clean and brightly lit by electric lamps. Its staff believed they represented the future of medicine, rationality applied to human suffering. Elizabeth Ashford arrived at Whitmore Hospital on a cold February morning in 1889, brought by her mother, Catherine, a widow working as a seamstress in one of the poorest sections of Philadelphia. Elizabeth had been suffering from a persistent fever for 3 weeks. Her small body was thin from illness, her skin pale as parchment. The fever would break temporarily, then return with intense violence. Local physicians had offered no diagnosis, no treatment, no hope. Catherine had sold her few remaining possessions to pay for admission to Whitmore, placing her last hope in the scientific medicine the hospital promised. Elizabeth was admitted to the pediatric ward, supervised by Dr. Marcus Delmore, a physician in his 40s who prided himself on meticulous documentation. She was lucid despite her weakness. Her fever hovered at 103 degrees. Standard examinations revealed nothing obviously wrong. No lung infection, no signs of typhoid or scarlet fever. Just a girl burning with fever from an unknown cause. For the first week, Elizabeth seemed to improve slightly, though the fever always returned by morning. But during the second week, she began making strange complaints. She told the nurses she saw another girl watching from a place beyond normal sight. The nurses dismissed this as fever delirium, common in febrile children. But Elizabeth was insistent and increasingly distressed. She described the other girl exactly. She wore the same clothes, had the same pale skin and thin frame, but she existed in a reflected place, like looking through glass. The girl never moved toward her, but always watched from the edges of vision with an expression of deep sadness. The other children noticed Elizabeth's distress. She would cry out, pointing at empty air, begging the nurses to look, to confirm someone else was there. But no one could see what Elizabeth saw. Dr. Delmore, presented with these reports, made the logical assumption. High fever often produces hallucinations. The child was simply experiencing a common delirium symptom. Treatment would cure the fever, and the hallucinations would cease. But as the days passed, Elizabeth's fever did not respond to any treatment attempted. Quinine, willow bark tea, cold water baths, bloodletting. Nothing touched the fever. And Elizabeth's descriptions of the reflected girl became increasingly specific and urgent. She reported that the other girl was trying to communicate something. Elizabeth couldn't understand what, but it was important. The other girl would move her lips silently, trying to form words. Elizabeth would strain to understand, her small face twisted with concentration. The nurses reported finding her staring at mirrors in the ward, turning them at different angles, trying to see into the depths beyond the reflective surface. In March, Elizabeth's condition deteriorated dramatically. Her fever spiked to dangerous levels. Her breathing became labored. The ward became convinced she was dying. Dr. Delmore consulted with other physicians at the hospital. All agreed that whatever was affecting Elizabeth was beyond their ability to treat. They had exhausted available remedies. All that remained was supportive care and prayer. It was during this period that Dr. Delmore made the decision to photograph Elizabeth, documenting her condition for the hospital's case records. The hospital had recently acquired photographic equipment and was beginning to create visual records of unusual medical cases. The photograph would show the wasting effects of the mysterious fever, creating a permanent medical record. The photograph was scheduled for March 15, 1889, a Tuesday morning, when Elizabeth was slightly more alert than usual. She was dressed in her hospital gown, positioned in a chair, positioned near a window where natural light is strong. A photographer named Samuel Whitmore, who had worked with the hospital for 2 years, set up his large-format camera on a sturdy tripod. Elizabeth showed no fear of the equipment. She seemed almost relieved, as if the photograph itself might provide some explanation or solution. Samuel positioned her carefully, checked the lighting, made adjustments. He instructed Elizabeth to look directly at the camera and remain absolutely still. He activated the shutter, exposing the glass plate for the 15 seconds required by the era's technology. During those 15 seconds, according to Samuel's later account, Elizabeth's face seemed to shift slightly, to become uncertain, as if she were not entirely present in the moment. When Samuel processed the photographic plate that afternoon, he immediately knew something was wrong. The chemical reaction was unusual. The image seemed to develop unevenly. When the plate was finally completely processed and the photograph was visible in its entirety, Samuel went pale. The body was perfectly captured. Every detail of Elizabeth's dress, the chair, the window behind her, all of it was clear and precise. But where her face should have appeared, there was absolutely nothing. Not a blur, not motion artifacts, not shadow. An empty void in the exact shape of a human face. Samuel rushed to show Dr. Delmore. The doctor examined the photograph in stunned silence. He had seen photographs before. He had never seen anything like this. Samuel insisted he had done everything correctly. The camera was functioning properly. The chemicals were fresh. The exposure time was accurate. There was no technical reason for this to have happened, but it had. The photograph itself was undeniable proof of something impossible. Theories emerged immediately. Perhaps something in Elizabeth's illness affected how the photographic process captured her image. Perhaps the mysterious fever had created some kind of biological anomaly. Perhaps Elizabeth's strange mental state had somehow influenced the photographic plate through means unknown to science. The hospital convened a special meeting of senior physicians to examine the photograph and discuss its implications. The consensus was clear. The photograph was an anomaly, a technical error that seemed impossible but had clearly occurred. They would not publicize it. The case would not be discussed outside the hospital. The photograph would be secured in the hospital's archives. But Elizabeth's condition continued to deteriorate. She died on March 19, 1889, just 4 days after the photograph was taken. Her fever had finally consumed her. She was unconscious at the end, her lips moving silently, as if she were still trying to communicate with the reflected girl only she could see. Catherine, Elizabeth's mother, died 3 years later, her death attributed to grief and exhaustion. She never learned the truth about the photograph.
No one at the hospital had the courage to tell her that something inexplicable had happened to her daughter.
Modern researchers have proposed various theories. Some suggest Elizabeth's severe fever caused electrical disturbances affecting the photographic plate through unknown mechanisms. Others propose the face was deliberately retouched to obscure disturbing evidence. Neurological examination suggests she might have been experiencing extreme dissociation, her consciousness fragmenting so severely that the photographic process could not capture her presence. But none fully explain what happened. The photograph remains in Philadelphia's medical archives, examined occasionally by researchers and historians, a strange testament to a mystery that remains unsolved more than 130 years after it was created. It challenges our understanding of how reality interacts with technology, how consciousness and physical existence intersect, and whether some phenomena exist beyond our current ability to explain. Elizabeth Ashford lived only 8 years, but her case continues to raise questions that have no easy answers, reminding us that human experience contains mysteries that resist rational categorization. If you were fascinated by Elizabeth Ashford's story and want to explore more cases like this, historical medical mysteries that defy explanation, hospital photographs that captured more than they should have, and archived cases that medical science tried but failed to understand, then subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these extraordinary stories hidden in the archives of medical history. These forgotten cases deserve to be told, deserve to be questioned, because sometimes what seems impossible has too much documentation to be completely dismissed. Until the next mystery.